Question 3, a parent function f of x is transformed to the new function negative 1/2 f parentheses x minus 1 plus 6. Describe all the transformations. If you don't know your function rules, you don't really have a function to be able to put in because if you try to type in negative 1/2 f parentheses x minus 1 plus 6, it's not going to let you move a function. So you have to define a function first before you can actually move it. So if I said f of x was a function, maybe we'll say x squared. That's usually a good one to work with. Then you can see what happens as I make that transformation. But let's think about what's going on one thing at a time. First, let's focus on what happens if I just do a negative. So let me get rid of all that, get rid of that 1/2. That negative, what that negative is doing is it's flipping it over the x-axis. So anytime you have a negative on the outside, that's going to be a reflection, and that's going to be a reflection over the x-axis. Now, if you have a 1/2, and we learned this in the previous question, if you have a number that it gets smaller, so in this case, it's going to be between 0 and 1, that's actually going to compress it. So let's kind of see what goes on with that. So if I put that 1/2 out there, so negative 1/2, you can see that that graph is a little bit wider than this graph here. In fact, let me take that negative off so you can see that comparison without the flip. So when I put a 1/2, it makes it wider. That's a compress, vertical compression. Let's put that negative back out. In fact, we say compress because generally we work in the vertical. So it's going to be compressed vertically, vertical compression. Then the -1 on the outside and the inside, that's going to take it either right or left. So if I have a -1 here, remember that's going to be the opposite of what the x-axis is. So if I do a -1, that's going to take it right. And it's going to take it right exactly 1 unit, that same number that's inside the parentheses. So that's going to be right 1. And then finally, we have this +6 on the outside, and that affects up and down. So it's actually going to be up 6, and we'll verify that in our graph. But this is only going to work on the graph if you define f of x as some function. So you could say x squared, you could say the absolute value of x. Don't do anything basic like a linear function because you won't be able to see certain key features. But I would try to do something like x squared or the absolute value of x, or maybe even x to the third power. You want to be able to see that movement as you apply those transformations.